April 2019 would witness the launch of one of the biggest engineering challenges in the United Arab Emirates in recent times. The rehabilitation of the South Runway at Dubai International Airport would test all the parties involved. For the Saeed and Mohammed Al Naboodah group, it was the opening of a 45-day window which would utilize the resources, equipment and personnel in the most demanding of conditions.
In a normal project, if you overrun slightly, the impact is minimal. In this kind of project where Emirates Airlines have thousands of passengers booked a ticket waiting for a plane to take off, you have no time for leeway. There is absolutely no chance you can slip on that deadline. To which end it was relayed to the staff over and over by Dubai Airports, by Dubai Engineering Services, that we had to complete this project on time.
During the refurbishment of the South Runway, the North would remain fully operational with over 800 aircraft movements daily. All this traffic would have to use 3 crossing points which dissected the main construction areas. It created a unique working environment that placed enormous pressures on all those involved.
Normal construction projects, your constraints are relatively less compared to an airport project because the runway is very live, since Dubai being the busiest airport in the world, and it's a different setup and mindset altogether because people who have worked in the airport, they know what is the do's and don'ts in an airport.
There are a lot of restrictions in working in a live airfield. We have to take, it's not like other outside projects. We have to take a lot of permissions, lot of care to work inside the live airport.
Whilst April the 16th was the date where passengers were first affected by the runway closure, for Al Naboodah it was actually the culmination of over 12 months meticulous planning.
It's basically a year of planning and 45 days of hard work.
The South Runway is over 4.5 kilometers long and has a width exceeding 60 meters. With the runoff and taxi areas also being refurbished, the entire work area totaled over 2 million square meters. From the moment the contract was awarded, every division was required to assess and plan their role.
Well, the initial planning was originally, it took about 14 months. All our suppliers had to buy into the project itself, which meant in case that all raw materials for the project had to be brought in beforehand. That included aggregates from quarry, bitumen from our bitumen supplier, specialised additives, all the way down to our transport, our resources and our personnel. We couldn't start the project without that. Everything had to be on site before day one of execution, and then we followed on from there.
The permanent Al Naboodah ready-mix plant in Jebel Ali was capable of handling the workload requirements of the project. But a decision was taken to establish a temporary facility just a few kilometres from the airport site.
The thought behind Baghdad Street was that we needed a supply area which mitigated any logistical challenges that we would face in Dubai. We needed to work out where the challenges would be on the roads. We needed to challenge on a 24-hour production cycle. So getting as close to the project as we possibly could was paramount in making those goals happen.
By early April, over 30,000 tonnes of premix had been prepared. Plan -30 was adopted that would ensure that all the materials, from the largest component down to a single piece of rope, were sourced, tested and securely stored on site by March the 15th, 1 month prior to official access date. Over 200 detailed drawings were prepared by the Al Naboodah engineers and presented to the construction team. The goal was that all of these would be approved and ratified at least 15 days prior to the planned runway closure.
This kind of major projects we had to start around 6 months ahead of the schedule. So we started with a team of engineers and draftsmen to start preparing the drawings almost 6 months before. These drawings show mainly the layout drawings, the details, the marking drawings, the cross-sectional details, and the other features such as other services, foundations, everything will be there included.
As the 16th of April dawned, the team were confident that every contingency had been examined and every possibility considered.
I can say 99.9% of the required information, materials, drawings, information, everything was available before the start of the job.
The decision had been taken to divide the work area into 5 distinct zones, A to E. It would allow for the precise application of every activity and closer inspection of the hour-by-hour or daily goals. The move would guarantee the maximum efficiency of people and plant and minimize unnecessary movement. The first 48 hours on site were vital. This was the period that the logistics team of 4 engineers, 2 site agents and over 300 workers had been given to mobilize and create a fully functional working environment.
We have several stakeholders. So we were in close coordination with Dubai Airport's different departments like airside operations, the Dubai Airport engineering projects, our consultant Darul Handasa and ACW Air civil section. All the stakeholders, we were doing a very close coordination to get into the work. We made the airside control arrangements, boundary fence, manpower arrangements, transportation of materials, and the live taxiway closures with the marshal cabins, traffic signals, and the welfare facilities to assist the operation team to start with the works.
Work started simultaneously on all zones, though with a particular focus on A and E. These areas included the TDZs, or touchdown zones. The strategy being that the sooner the work was advanced in these outer zones, then the earlier the work could begin on all the lighting requirements. With much of the micro-tunneling work carried out during the 12 months leading up to the closure period, the initial focus was on the milling of the surface areas. The South Runway rehabilitation was classified by the Al Naboodah construction group as an intensive project. This intensity was certainly demonstrated by the milling operation. Using plant and equipment brought in from their own National Plant Division, milling was carried out on all the runway and taxi areas. Milled to a depth of 5 centimeters, thousands of tons of material were removed. But in a move that reflects the sustainable principles adopted throughout the group, up to 50,000 tons of this was stored, recycled and reused as a base mix for all the graded areas. At peak times, 1,200 men would be on site. All had undergone thorough police security checks and clearance. In the months leading up to the project, everyone had passed detailed orientation and familiarization tests, and specific training had been given to those with more specialist tasks. Constant reminders of the regulations in operation were given, and rules concerning speed limits, driver safety and boundary perimeters were strictly enforced. Safety is always paramount, but when so many people and up to 800 pieces of machinery are operating in such close proximity to some of the biggest aircraft in the world, it takes on a greater significance.
Safety is the priority, number one, and we are working in the airports. That is more important. So the client is having that much credibility, and airport is having that much credibility. We cannot give a chance to them to make a big story outside of the world. was good from our point of view. We were experienced because we did the last project and we were experienced, and we used the lessons learned from the previous project to make this project more convenient and safe for everybody.
The site would be operational 24 hours a day, with workers divided into day and night shifts. To ensure targets and KPIs were met, continuous updates and reviews on performances and results were essential. Al Naboodah, other stakeholders and the client were in constant communication.
For this particular project, we have decided from the day one that every day morning at 6:30 and in the evening 6:30 we have the stakeholders meetings. In that we will brief what is going to be happening on that day and what went wrong or good in the last shift. So with that, we will get a lot of assistance from the stakeholder, especially for any works outside our limits to go on do and on.
The asphalt laid on the runway was a special PMP polymer modified bitumen that's designed to be more durable. It can withstand high temperatures, continuous impact, and the damaging effect of corrosive aircraft fuel. Over 60,000 tons of the polymer modified asphalt was carefully laid on the runway area. It's designed to be laid at a higher temperature, and it's vital that this is maintained throughout the process. Indeed, the quality of the asphalt was constantly scrutinized, and steps were taken to ensure it conformed to the highest international standards. Ghassan Shahab is an associate professor at the American University of Beirut. He's a specialist in the testing and analysis of asphalt, and was flown over specifically for the duration of the project. In Al Nabooddah's own testing laboratory, Ghassan and his team analyzed daily samples of the asphalt used on the South Runway.
So what we do is, we try to do performance tests where we mimic the speed of the airplane. So we test at different speeds, we test at different temperature conditions, so that we are able to tell, okay, the runway in summer, that's how it will respond to an A380, let's say, when it's standing. In winter, when you have a Boeing 737, different tire pressure, that's how it will respond. So we test at all different conditions that a runway is subjected to, speed and temperature and the load type of aircraft, and try to estimate or predict from now, from time zero, what will the runway perform like from now till its end of its life, typically 20 years.
The asphalt manufactured adhered to the strict guidelines laid out by the ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Organization, and those of the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration of the USA. When the final runway asphalt was laid, the team was 7 days ahead of schedule. Whilst the precise matrix that had been developed for the planning and engineering teams had successfully created this position, the commercial operation had the task of ensuring that all the financial targets were met.
We had around 8 to 10 people, quantity surveyors on the project, so it involved a number of those people attending the site every day to ensure that records were maintained, to ensure that the correct information was being provided on the drawings. Again, extensive coordination between the engineering department and the commercial department to ensure that all of the information is on the drawings, that can then be verified and remeasured, and that we achieve the value set forth in the budget for the project.
Honeywell had been subcontracted by Al Naboodah to handle all the lighting and circuitry requirements. In line with the preparation seen across all divisions of the project, much of the 870 kilometers of primary cabling had been laid in the period leading up to the April the 16th closure. But within the 45-day live period, Honeywell were faced with changing the entire lighting infrastructure of the South Runway.
From a detail perspective, the planning was really important. Very important for us to tie in with Al Nabooddah's plan, and that we are well aware of each other's progress. That real tight collaboration around planning was really, really key to make sure that we stay on progress, stay on track, and that we don't fall behind. Remember, this is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week operation, and that was very, very key to our success.
Honeywell installed a new, advanced, state-of-the-art lighting system that offered environmental and economic benefits to the airport. Over 7,000 new LED lights with similar numbers of remote control units and advanced circuitry were installed. 16 new precision approach path indicators were fixed, and 125 new taxiway guideline signs were mounted. Testing of the lights and runway was continuously monitored both from the ground and the air. The MK2 grip tester is arguably the world's most respected continuous friction measurement tool. Towed along at a constant 65 km per hour and at a distance 5 meters to the side of the central line, the test monitors the properties and consistency of the surface through millions of real-time data points that are fed to the onboard computer. Detailed analysis of the results helps ensure that the South Runway would meet the strictest regulations. In the closing period of the project, though much of the heavy machinery and labour was withdrawn from site, hundreds of workers remained with important tasks to do. Painting of the data and codes on runways and taxiways is completed by hand, with a sprinkling of adhesive glitter to improve night visibility. Barrier fences were erected, whilst the ongoing task of clearing any dust or debris was a continuous challenge. The Saeed Mohammed Al Naboodah Group was established over 60 years ago. Their reputation for professionalism, integrity, and consistently delivering has been a hallmark of their work. The leadership comes from the very top, and Mr. Mohammed Al Naboodah, one of the two founders, continues to inspire and set the standards that his team follow. Although into his 9th decade, Mr. Mohammed continues to take an active role in the business, keeping abreast of current construction trends and showing genuine interest on projects that bear the family name.
How much keenness our owners are taking into this project, the minute details, so which shows how much interest, how much time they are spending on this important project, So when he come out to the site, and that gives us our all blood, comes up, we are in the toast,
Having Mr. Mohammed on site during the period motivated everybody. It was a great plus to everybody on site. The client was also impressed that a man of that stature actually came down and visited the project. It showed the importance of the project to the family.
At midday on Thursday, May the 30th, Al Naboodah formally signed off the operation of the South Runway to Dubai Aviation Engineering Projects. It marked the culmination of a 45-day window that had challenged the collective expertise of hundreds of people, involving thousands of pieces of equipment, tens of thousands of man-hours, and months of preparation.
See, it's a great feeling, it's a team effort basically, we all work as a team, right from our operative on ground to our general manager.
I think that it's been a success commercially and operationally because of the ethos of all stakeholders. It was a team effort, not an individual entity effort. Everyone had the same end goal and we achieved it. So, yeah, it was a good project.
The landing of Emirates Airline Flight EK230 a little after 6 p.m. marked the official reopening of the South Runway. Dubai International Airport resumed its role as the world's busiest aviation hub, and the Saeed Mohammed Al Naboodah Group could reflect on a world-class completion of another engineering challenge.